All right, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to this Tuesday edition of the Millstone Report. We've got a lot to get to. Mainly, it's been a really long time since Jenny McCarthy and Jim Carrey went on CNN to claim that autism was a huge problem and to cite Big Pharma or vaccines as their reason why they think their child was affected with autism. Of course, we remember back then the swift media backlash, really about 20 years ago. People back then weren't really pointing out what we all know now during COVID, that the entire news media is very dependent on advertisements from Big Pharma, advertising this drug or that drug, and nobody wanted to hear it. And yet, just like a lot of things, over the last 20 years, there's been a groundswell of people thinking, believing, hey, my child was this way before a shot, then was really different developmentally after the shot. But everybody said, well, it wasn't the vaccines, and the gaslighting that would happen, that has happened. And now here we are. We are now at a place where the highest office in the land and the Health and Human Services Secretary are now at least approaching confronting Big Pharma by blaming Tylenol. Tylenol, of all things. Now, we're going to get into it. And that's not all that Donald Trump and RFK said yesterday. But this is, in my opinion, a huge milestone. It's a huge data point from where we've been to where we are now. It's still not enough. We've got to continue. And I think there's going to be even more information about this coming in the near future. We've been waiting for this, the beginning of this information, for the last 3 months, when in a cabinet meeting, RFK Jr. said, we will have information about autism in September. Well, yesterday was September 22nd. And we finally got, at least what I'm being told, is the beginning of that information. And even recognizing that there is something, there is a causation, because autism is an epidemic, and it's happening and has happened in this country for a very long time. We're going to talk about that and more if we have time. The Millstone Report starts right now. All right, so, if you believe in any sort of incrementalism, this is certainly, I feel like, a couple of steps forward all at once yesterday. Now, I'll just get to the critics at first, because there are going to be people that are going to warn, rightfully so, because we don't trust anything these days, understandably so, reasonably so, that Tylenol could be used as the scapegoat, right? Let's blame it all on Tylenol. Let's not actually look at, the ridiculous amount of shots that we're putting into our kids. And this is a fear that I think definitely, needs to be taken seriously. So everything I say on the show, the caveat is, the qualification is, yeah, Tylenol could be used as a scapegoat. I don't think that's going to happen here, because I don't think you can put the genie out of the bottle. Well, once you go where they have gone, I think it's just going to snowball, and that's my hope. Now, this fear, the last thing I'll say about it, of scapegoating, is the same thing many people were worried about that was going to happen with the MAHA agenda when it came to Big Pharma versus Big Food, okay? And the reason I bring that up is because what happened yesterday appears to, at least temporarily, kind of put that fear to rest. The fear from 3 or 4 months ago, and we talked about it, was that everything that's wrong in our country in terms of health was all going to be blamed on Fruit Loops and dyes and chemicals in our food. And that Big Pharma has very much an incentive to blame the health condition of this country, which is the poorest health conditions, the poorest, chronic health conditions. We stand out compared to modern countries first world countries. And so the fear was they're just going to blame this all on the dyes in our food. And the dyes in our food are awful, right? It is a landmine. Your grocery store is a landmine, a minefield, and you have to go through there. At least I try to. My wife tries to when we're eating, and when our child is trying to eat, we have to say, "Yep, well, this has red 40 in it." And I know that red 40 makes my child act different in a lot of different ways, and you can just tell. Okay, so you find the Dorito knockoffs that use beta carotene, and they don't. It doesn't have the red 40, And then RFK's done a lot of great stuff on, is it citrazine or whatever, and explaining where that comes from and how it's in everything. And the food companies, in a lot of cases, voluntarily have said, hey, we're dropping these chemicals. We're going to get them out of the food. You've seen Steak and Shake capitalized by using beef tallow instead of vegetable oil, although the fries are pre-fried in vegetable oil, but they're still a lot better. And you've seen this with, I believe I read Tyson Chicken is committed to taking out the chemicals, and we got to hold them to it. We got to hold all these companies to it. But that's the biggest thing, specifically because so many people in America get their food from processed foods. A big chunk of their diet is from processed food, and that's bad. But if we're going to have that, if you're going to have that, yes, you can discourage it. Yes, we can say don't buy junk food with food stamps and everything else. But if you do buy it, okay, it may not be nutritional for you, but it shouldn't have chemicals in it that contribute to a whole realm of problems. And when we say that, we also acknowledge that Big Pharma has a lot of interest in big food keeping people sick or getting people sick, because now you have the pipeline, right? I've had a whole diet as a kid, on processed foods, and now, I'm 40 years old and I have chronic health problems, and so I'm going to be rushed into the arms of Big Pharma because they have a way to treat the symptoms, not cure me, but they can put me on that hamster wheel, and now I'm going to be running on it for a very long time. I'm a lifelong customer or slave. I'm a lifelong customer or slave. Which one is it? And so I will say that the announcement yesterday, though, is a shot across the bow against Big Pharma. And the leftists are losing their mind. The memes are fantastic. Trump said Tylenol and autism, there's a link. And then the leftists, taking handfuls of Tylenol, right? Which, of course, we don't want. Just to be clear. But this does seem that they're actually taking on Big Pharma in a big way. Of course, other leftists saying, "Oh, I can't wait. Tylenol is going to sue the American government into oblivion." Yeah, I don't think so, man. I don't think so. But I think you can also see why. There was a concerted effort 2 or 3 weeks ago. There was this, and we covered it, a concerted effort to go after RFK. He was in those hearings. There was rumors that there was, this movement to try to get him fired. I think we now know why. It's because he was having research done. He was sniffing around. He was asking the right questions. And again, let's hope that it doesn't stop there. Here's some audio from yesterday, RFK Jr. Let's take a listen to this.
Our friends like to say we should believe all women. Some of these same people have been silencing and demonizing these mothers for 3 decades because research on the potential link between autism and vaccines has been actively suppressed in the past. It will take time for an honest look at this topic by scientists. But I want to reassure the people in the autism community that we will be uncompromising and relentless in our search for answers.
So that's kind of a follow-up from what he said a couple of weeks ago at those Senate hearings, where he revealed the research that they had. Not he, but a previous scientist had research that showed that black boys had a 200% increase in chance of autism if they got the shots when they were 3 or 4 versus if they got the shots when they were 5. And they hauled those people in, and they told them to delete the data of that study. So they deleted the data of the study, according to RFK, and then they released the study to the public without the information that showed that there was a danger that it was going to increase autism among blacks. Now, I mean, that is from a government agency. That story is a true story. It's from a government agency tasked with keeping the people safe. And it deliberately deleted the data that was inconvenient to Big Pharma. So Big Pharma has obviously, up until this moment at least, had full and total complete control over the agencies that are tasked with regulating them. So it's called industry capture. The industry has totally captured the regulatory boards. And, you know, this is coming from me, by the way, who, I mean, I was very, especially in my earlier days, you know, talked about big government, talked about the federal bureaucracy as being a behemoth, and it sure is, and how we don't need this regulation and we don't need that regulation. And that's still true, absolutely. But at the core, I mean, the whole concept of these things is the reason the left would always say, the reason we need these agencies is because we got to keep corporations in check. The reason we need these agencies is because they got to keep the public safe. And I'm not against public safety in terms of just the concept of it. And yet you would think the left in this country that used to be against corporations, I'm old enough to remember that. But no. In many cases, you know, you've got the viral videos of Trump questioning the vaccines, and then you've got people on TikTok, liberals, that are filming themselves. Well, because Trump said it, I'm going to get another vaccine. It is, man, I mean, delusional. Really, it's sad actually. Delusional doesn't really begin to describe what we're talking about here. I guess it's a start. We're gonna go through several of these clips here. Here's an extended clip.
Important findings from our autism work that are vital for parents to know as they make these decisions. First, HHS will act on acetaminophen. The FDA is responding to clinical and laboratory studies that suggest a potential association between acetaminophen use during pregnancy and adverse neurodevelopmental outcomes, including later diagnosis for ADHD and autism. Scientists have proposed biological mechanisms linking prenatal acetaminophen exposure to altered brain development. We have also evaluated the contrary studies that show no association. Today, the FDA will issue a physician's notice about the risk of acetaminophen during pregnancy and begin the process to initiate a safety label change. HHS will launch a nationwide public service campaign to inform families and protect public health. FDA also recognized that acetaminophen is often the only tool for fevers and pain in pregnancy, as other alternatives have well-documented adverse effects. HHS wants, therefore, to encourage clinicians to exercise their best judgment and the use of acetaminophen for fevers and pain in pregnancy by prescribing the lowest effective dose for the shortest necessary duration and only when treatment is required. Furthermore, thanks to the politicization of science, the safety of acetaminophen against the risk of neurodevelopmental disorders in young children has never been validated. Prudent medicine, therefore, suggests caution in acetaminophen use by young children, especially since strong evidence also has associated it with liver toxicity. Some studies have also found the use of acetaminophen in children can potentially prolong viral illnesses. FDA will drive new research to safeguard mothers, children, and families. In addition to a possible acetaminophen connection to autism for pregnant women, infants, and toddlers, our research has revealed that folate deficiency in a child's brain can lead to autism.
Wow. So one of the links that, at least, and maybe they mention it here in a minute, but one of the links, as somebody online has said, so now they're saying, you know, Tylenol in pregnancy. Okay, this can affect the baby. This can potentially affect the baby. What we need to get to, where we need to get to, is the link between Your baby goes in for their shots. Your baby gets however many shots they get. I don't know. It's a lot. They come home. They have a reaction to the shots, and they start running a fever. What do you give the baby? Tylenol. What does the Tylenol do? Well, people that are a lot smarter than me on the interweb say that the Tylenol binds to certain receptors, and the brain becomes inflamed, and that's where your autism begins. Is one of the claims. Is one of the claims out there. So, targeting specifically or announcing specifically to not give pregnant women Tylenol is a foot in the door to draw the correlation. Again, could it be a red herring? Could it be a scapegoat where we don't go any further than this? This is as far as we go. It could be, but I don't think so. Here's RFK Jr.'s vice presidential running mate, Nicole Shanahan. She writes, today's announcement on autism comes on the heels of Charlie Kirk's assassination for speaking the truth. When RFK Jr. accurately discredited the emergence of the MAGA coalition to Charlie last week, accurately credited, everything changed. The movement reignited. Truth begets truth. Courage begets courage. Honor begets honor. Today was incredibly bold. President Trump, you have exceeded my expectations in truth-telling. We were only expecting to hear about the published work on Tylenol, acetaminophen. Instead, you channeled Charlie and spoke truths that haunt millions of us on a daily basis. Our nation's approach to childhood vaccinations is reckless and is causing immense suffering. RFK Jr., you have exceeded my expectations in juggling snakes in a den of vipers and rolling through the chaos. Dr. Jay Bhattacharya, you've been a North Star, a sound voice of faith and dignity every step of the way. And Dr. Oz, after meeting you and your incredible wife, I knew we had a peacemaker in the Oval Office. Keep it up, team. This is only the beginning. Again, when you get the Nicole Shanahan has been skeptical. I mean, because the Maha movement is also a coalition of voices within the larger coalition of voices that is MAGA. And she's been critical of certain things and certain appointments in the past, and the lack of action or the fear of a scapegoat, basically. So I think that's a big deal. Shipwreck over on X posts this old Tylenol commercial. I actually haven't seen it yet, but I bookmarked it. Watch this.
Its most joyful moments can also be one of its most painful. But take comfort in Tylenol, the pain reliever doctors and hospitals choose most.
Come meet your little brother.
Hello. Tylenol, take comfort in our strength.
Every time you turn around these days, another pain reliever with ibuprofen in it is comparing itself to Tylenol. But you know what they can't say? They can't say they're gentler than Tylenol, because they're not. Tylenol won't irritate your stomach the way ibuprofen sometimes can. That's a medical fact. And is it any wonder that today hospitals use Tylenol 14 times more than ibuprofen? Tylenol, the pain reliever hospitals use most.
Wow. So first question is, I would love to know the history of the studies of Tylenol, and has our own government ever deleted data that found what RFK has announced today? Have they known this? Has there been anybody in our own government that knew this was the case and kept it from the public, and for how long? It's not as if RFK Jr. is the first person to theorize that Tylenol is bad for pregnancy or bad for babies or has an autism link. There's a lot of people that think that. There was a testimony online that I saw this morning that was talking about how they didn't vaccinate their kids at all, but their kid does have autism, and they said that during pregnancy she took large quantities of Tylenol. The mother took large quantities of Tylenol, and for years they have always assumed that, they don't have direct evidence or proof, but they've always assumed that it was the Tylenol that made their child autistic. So the question is, when you see ads like that, have they known about this? And if so, are there other studies that were deleted? If there were other studies that were deleted on this, folks, that is a crime. That is a crime. That is criminal. Robert Malone, the memes are coming in. Trump, Tylenol is bad, very bad. Liberals taking spoonfuls of Tylenol. They also circulated the idea that there might be a treatment, a path to treating autism. Then we have, this is what I was talking about. So Dr. Mark Galili says, we all know that it's the Tylenol administered after the vaccines. The heavy metals accumulate. Then Tylenol inhibits the CYP450. This is what I was trying to say earlier. Inhibits the CYP450, also impairing glutathione pathways. And what you get is inflammation in the brain, triggering damage to neurons, and hence autism is created. Larry Cook saying, doesn't get more succinct than this. The one additional note is that an MTHFR gene mutation, difficulty detoxing, plays a role, as does whether it's testosterone boy amplifying the poison or estrogen girl protective to the poison, why it's 4 boys to every 1 girl with ASD. Here's President Trump.
The hepatitis B, take it at 12. Sexually transmitted. You don't have to give it to the baby when the baby's 2 years old, and there are a lot of theories on that, but not when they're 12. Doesn't seem to be a problem at all.
Yeah, so he's talking about this vaccine that you get as soon as you're born for hepatitis, and that's a sexually transmitted disease, and it just makes no sense. And yet, this is what the government has been mandating for kids for a very long time. So we're starting to rethink this. This is a big deal. So this announcement right there was not about just Tylenol. Donald Trump singling out the hepatitis B vaccine for infants as soon as they're born, saying this doesn't make sense. We don't need to do it. And here we have more of Trump's
I think
remarks.
I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism. That have no autism. Does that tell you something? That's currently, is that a correct statement, by the way?
There are some studies that suggest that, yeah, with the Amish, for example.
The Amish, yeah, virtually. I heard none. See, Bobby wants to be very careful with what he says, and he should, but I'm not so careful with what I say. But you have certain groups. The Amish, as an example, they have essentially no autism.
You just saw the whole world change. The president of the United
So again, that was Alex Jones' coverage on it. Pretty nuts. Then there was some more here. Hang on.
100%. Instead of attacking those who ask questions, everyone should be grateful for those who are trying to get the answers to this complex situation. And the first day all of these great doctors behind me were there, I told them this is what we have to find out. Because when you go from 20,000 to 10,000 and then you go to 12, you know there's something artificial. They're taking something. And by the way, I think I can say that there are certain groups of people that don't take vaccines and don't take any pills that have no autism.
Hey, this is the full comments here.
That have no autism.
There are some
Virtually, example, they have essentially no autism. First, effective immediately, the FDA will be notifying physicians that the use of well, let's see how we say that. Acetaminophen. Is that okay? Which is basically commonly known as Tylenol during pregnancy, can be associated with a very increased risk of autism. So taking Tylenol is not good. I'll say it. It's not good. For this reason, they are strongly recommending that women limit Tylenol use during pregnancy unless medically necessary. That's, for instance, in cases of extremely high fever, that you feel you can't tough it out, you can't do it. I guess there's that. It's a small number of cases, I think. But if you can't tough it out, if you can't do it, that's what you're going to have to do. You'll take a Tylenol, but it'll be very sparingly. Can be something that's very dangerous to the woman's health.
Man. So yeah, I'm sorry. The video I pulled was Alex Jones' coverage here when this was going on live. So I apologize for that.
But I think
not that he wouldn't make great points. I'm just saying I'm not trying to rebroadcast his broadcast.
When you go for the shot, you do it over a 5-time period. Take it over 5 times or 4 times, but you take it in.
People bitch about this. It's over, folks. It's over. The whole thing just collapsed right
it out over a period of years.
We got your ass.
Oh my goodness. What was it that he actually said there? Hang on. Let's see here.
I'll say that they will maybe say at a little bit later date, but I think when you go for the shot, you do it over a 5-time period. Take it over 5 times or 4 times, but you take it in.
People bitch about this. It's over, folks. It's over.
So what he's saying is he's saying, look, we're giving the shots at the wrong schedule, which is what so many people have been saying for a long time. Now, I get it. There are other people that think it's just totally poison. And I'm sympathetic to that, honestly, because I don't trust any of it now. I just don't trust any of it. But there's a lot of other people that have just said, hang on, we were vaccinated. Like, I was fully vaccinated. I was born in 1984. I was on a different schedule than the kids are now. I mean, autism, people of my age that are autistic, people who are 41 that are autistic, I mean, they're out there, but it was not a common, it really wasn't that common that, the number of kids that were autistic in my class, my grade, growing up, just it wasn't really a thing. I don't even think I heard about autism until I was much older, and it was younger people. And that's why Kennedy makes this point here in a minute. Like full-blown autism, you don't see it in people who are 70. It doesn't exist. So it's clearly environmental. And, I've talked to parents before that did have their kids vaccinated, but they knew their doctor. They were close with them, and they regulated it, and they said, no, you're not giving us all these shots at once. You're going to give them to them individually. Well, sometimes the doctor's office doesn't allow that because the way they get the shots, it's all packed into one syringe. But there are ways to go and get each one individually. I thought even maybe some health departments actually have them individually. And so there were some parents over the last 20 years that decided to vaccinate their kids based on the 1970s vaccination schedule, and also stretched it way out. And so the fact that Trump is now saying, hey, look, we can't do this with one doctor's visit. And we flood them with all of this. And that's assuming that you trust Big Pharma at all. But what is going on here is all of our fears about Big Pharma and about wanting to ignore the problem and just put their head in the sand while they keep raking in all of this money, is that our trust issues with Big Pharma are upheld. They're being validated from the highest office in the land, and you better reform it. And if you guys knew and knew this was happening and intentionally squashing the data, you should go to jail. You should be prosecuted. Your companies should literally not even have bankruptcy protection. We should be able to sue you into oblivion and let the economic crows finish you off. The vultures can finish you off. I'm obviously being not literal and being figurative here, but Eric Daughtery, Secretary Kennedy, Tylenol is tied to autism, ADHD, and liver toxicity in kids and can prolong viral illness. I think we've already covered this video. Nick Sorter, this was the one. He gets this question from a reporter about, well, isn't this about really, like, we've got more autism now because we're so much smarter and we analyze it and we diagnose it quicker, whereas a long time ago, nobody knew what it was, and so they weren't diagnosing it. I mean, it's really not the problem you say it is.
Mr. President, I'm curious, as you look at the trend lines,
Yeah.
how much of this is the causation of acetaminophen and how much is sort of better diagnosis, doctors, researchers having a better understanding of what is on the autism spectrum.
Do you want to do that? Sure, go ahead.
That's one of the canards that has been promoted.
Okay, you might not have heard what he said there. He says that's a canard, right? It's a fallacy.
By the industry for many years that it's changed diagnostic criteria, better recognition, but there's been study after study done of that completely debunks that. One of them by the Mind Institute at UC Davis, University of California, but also it's just common sense. Because you're only seeing this in people who are under 50 years of age. If it were better recognition or diagnosis, you'd see it in 70-year-old men. I've never seen this happening in people my age. I've never seen a case of full-blown autism, and that means profound autism. I want to be very careful. Head-banging, stimming, toe walking, nonverbal, non-toilet trained. I've never in my life seen a 70-year-old man who looks like that. You're only seeing it in the kids. It's an epidemic.
It absolutely is an epidemic. We're going to take a quick break, and we're going to hear from a couple of sponsors. One of those being our friend Mike Lindell, and back here in a minute.
I hear every day about the products you all wish MyPillow carried. Well, guess what? We probably do. Slippers, bathrobes, pet beds, blankets, mattresses, sleepwear, loungewear, duvets, comforters, pot holders, aprons, oven mitts, and so much more. And they're all on sale. For example, get our best-selling standard MyPillows for only $14.98. Body pillows, $29.98. 6-piece bath towels or kitchen towel sets, just $29.98. Multi-use MyPillow 2.0s with pillowcase, $9.98. Save $40 on our Spring Percale and Giza Dream bed sheet sets. Any size, any color, and so much more. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to save up to 80% on all MyPillow products. And I've never done this before. When you spend $100 or more, you're going to get 2 standard MyPillows absolutely free.
Life can be pretty unpredictable, filled with good days and not so good days. And sometimes, the only difference between the two is your level of preparedness. The Jace case lets you be better prepared for whatever comes your way. It contains antibiotics and other prescription medications so that you aren't caught unprepared. With the Jace case, you are able to get your prescription medication before the unpredictable happens, allowing you to turn those not so good days into great ones. Go to Jace.com now and get your own Jace case.
There's really no better time than to get a Jace case. And we're talking about how we don't trust Big Pharma in the medical industrial complex, and but we all still have there are things, antibiotics, steroids, anti-diarrhea medicine when you need it, and we have a Jace case. And so if you go to Jace.com, JASE.com, really simple process. You answer a few questions. They get you in touch with a doctor, but you never actually talk. You get to make the order, and then the doctor emails you like, "Hey, you need anything?" Anyways, they just want to make sure that you're not allergic to any of the antibiotics they're going to send you and that sort of thing. So when you use my name, Paul, Paul, you will save some money. Jace.com. Use my name, Paul. Also on the MyPillow end of things, I love what Mike Lindell's doing. Obviously, I have MyPillows. And I have a bunch of other stuff. I have the sheets. I have everything else. Right now, MyPillow is excited to announce that they're having their biggest 3-in-1 sale ever with a limited edition product, a back-in-stock special, and a closeout deal that you won't find anywhere else. MyPillow bed sheets are only $29.88, any color, any size, any style. They've got kings. They've got regular, $119.98. Also $29.88. Once they're gone for good. This is right now. Maybe you want to do some early Christmas shopping because it's going to be here before you know it. They've got the towels. They're finally back in stock, but they're not going to be there long. So you can get a 6-piece My Towel set. A regular price at $69.98, but now only $39.98. And then for the first time and only time, you can get their limited edition premium MyPillows made with Giza cotton and a designer gusset. Queens, $17.98. Kings, only $19.98. Also, for a limited time, when you order over $100 or more over at MyPillow.com, you will receive free shipping plus $100 in free digital gifts. Okay? So I want you to go to mypillow.com, use my promo code PH, my initials PH, and you're going to get great discounts, and also, again, everything over $100 and you get free shipping. So it is no doubt an incredible deal. Picking back up with we've got picking back up with RFK Jr., where he said this.
First, I'm curious
that it's changed diagnostic criteria, better recognition, but there's been study after study done of that completely debunks that. One of them by the Mind Institute at UC Davis, University of California, but also it's just common sense. Because you're only seeing this in people who are under 50 years of age. If it were better recognition or diagnosis, you'd see it in 70-year-old men. I've never seen this happening in people my age. I've never seen a case of full-blown autism, and that means profound autism. I want to be very careful. Head-banging, stimming, toe walking, nonverbal, non-toilet trained. I've never in my life seen a 70-year-old man who looks like that.
I know there's still some people on the right who are not happy with this, but I really genuinely think this is probably one of the best days the Trump administration had yesterday so far in 2.0. Could you have even imagined a day like this coming in Trump 1.0? No, I couldn't. This was one of the culminations of the Maha movement, and it's only a first step. And we know that because what did Trump say? We played it for you just a second ago. He says, basically, they're not ready to announce this yet, but we're ready. But here you're going to hear from them in the next few weeks. You're going to hear from them about the vaccine schedule and how, giving somebody 70, 80 shots or 70, 80 vaccines in one shot, one doctor's visit doesn't make any sense. Really incredible stuff. Then Dr. Marty Makary, or Makary, don't know how to pronounce his name, he announced a potential treatment for autism.
Today, the FDA is filing a Federal Register notice to change the label on an exciting treatment called prescription leucovorin so that it can be available to children with autism. Autism may also be due to an autoimmune reaction to a folate receptor on the brain, not allowing that important vitamin to get into the brain cells. It's a fairly established, mature pathway. Again, we have a duty to let doctors and the public know we are going to change the label to make it available. Hundreds of thousands of kids, in my opinion, will benefit. One study found that with kids with autism and chronic folate deficiency, 2/3 of kids with autism symptoms had improvement, and some marked improvement. Today, the FDA is filing a Federal Register notice.
Do we have a photo of that? Let me see. Where did it go? Is this it right here? Yeah. Leucovorin. Leucovorin as the first potential pathway to treating autism. Incredible. So they're now saying, hey, look, we want to add this to the label to where it can be used and prescribed for it. What else do we have? Maha action on X. No president has ever addressed vaccines like this. President Trump says vaccines need to be spread out and that hepatitis B shouldn't be given to kids until they're 12. We want no mercury in the vaccine, he said. We want no aluminum in the vaccine. The MMR should be taken separately. When you mix them, there could be a problem. So there's no downside in taking them separately. When chickenpox got mixed in, it was really bad. There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B. I would say wait till the baby is 12 years old, informed, and then take hepatitis B. Hepatitis B is sexually transmitted. Babies don't need to take that shot at birth. If you do those things, it's going to be a revolution in a positive sense in the country. So I think this may be the full clip without. I accidentally pulled the Alex Jones broadcast clip instead. I think this is maybe the full.
It's artificially induced. It's not like something that when you go from all of those healthy babies to a point where I don't even know structurally if a country can afford it. And that's the least of the problems. To have families destroyed over this is just so terrible. I also, and we've already done this, we want no mercury in the vaccine. We want no aluminum in the vaccine. The MMR, I think, should be taken separately. This is based on what I feel, the mumps, measles, and all the three should be taken separately. And it seems to be that when you mix them, there could be a problem. So there's no downside in taking them separately. In fact, they think it's better, so let it be separate. The chicken pox is already separate because when that got mixed in, I guess they made it for a while, it really was bad. So they make chicken pox. Individually, they're okay. When you mix them, something maybe happens. So there's no downside in doing it. It's not like, oh, if you do it, bad things. No, it's only good side. And it may not have that much of an impact, but it may have a big impact. So let those be taken separately. And then hepatitis B is sexually transmitted. There's no reason to give a baby that's almost just born hepatitis B. So I would say wait till the baby is 12 years old and formed and take hepatitis B. And I think if you do those things, it's going to be a whole different, it's going to be a revolution in a positive sense in the country. It's artificially induced. It's not like some.
The President of the United States said from the White House yesterday that the autism epidemic, this thing that we've been seeing, that have been told and gaslit by the mainstream media, is just happening. It's just happening. Has now admitted that the conspiracy theorists were right, and it is being artificially induced. That there is something in our environment that has triggered young people en masse to get autism. Oh, and by the way, if you really want to go down the rabbit hole, go research how many trans people who want to have their genitals removed or want to take a hormone therapy are also autistic. Because there is a correlation. If you are autistic or if you are trans, there is a higher likelihood that you're autistic. So then you really start thinking, wow, what a destabilizing agent. I mean, just as far as data points go, without having evidence to prove motive, the data points suggest that not only have we been poisoning ourselves and our populations while our government looks the other way or calls it safe or calls anyone who questions the narrative a crazy person, the effects in the poisoning could have aided the destabilization of our system morally and ethically. Because, I mean, it's led to doctors doing these procedures on kids and calling it healthcare and not calling it child abuse, which is what it is. And then if you think, somebody on the autistic spectrum being more vulnerable to potentially believing the woke sex religion propaganda that gets preached at schools across this country, and, then you have the cases where your kids are getting transed and they're keeping the parents in the dark and they're giving the kid a new name. If you're autistic or even, some mildly autistic, does that have a greater effect? Is there a greater chance that you're going to succumb to the propaganda? I think absolutely there would be. Could be wrong about that, but we're to the stage now where things have been so corrupt for such a long period of time that more and more people are willing to just trust their own intuition. They're just willing to trust their own their intuition and their own gut. And you know what? That can get you in trouble, certainly. But because we have so much corruption, so much gaslighting, so many of our officials for so long have lied to us over and over and over again and have, told us it's raining, when they're urinating on our leg. So many Americans are just ready to believe their own gut and their intuition over and what the motives are and everything else, because it's all too convenient. It's all too convenient. I mean, we talked about big ag, big food, and big pharma at the top of the show, kind of making those distinctions. I mean, when you draw back and you look at you look at the patchwork of this, boy, it all seems like all of these things are working in tandem, and it feels like it's on purpose. It feels like it's on purpose to me. Occam's razor would suggest the simplest explanation is the most probable, and so the simplest explanation here, I would say, is just money, right? It's money. But I like Occam's razor, to analyze a lot of problems. It's especially good if you're analyzing technical problems. But when human beings get involved, spiritual warfare is at play, and I think a lot of times the spiritual components of what's going on behind the scenes can just kind of turn Occam's razor on its head, which is why so many conspiracy theories turn out to be true. At least the ones that get dismissed, and now like vaccines causing autism, like that, which Jenny McCarthy and Jim Carrey were basically saying 20 years ago, and now here we are, 20 years later. So it's just something to think about, folks. And then he said this.
And it's so important to me to see the doctor 4 times or 5 times for a vaccine. Don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff you've ever seen in your life going into the delicate little body of a baby, even if it's...
Don't let them pump your baby up with the largest pile of stuff you've ever seen going into the delicate little body of a baby. Again, this is just a step, in my opinion. If it stops here, it doesn't need to stop here. There needs to be more. There needs to be more research. But my goodness, the highest office in the land is saying, don't let them pump your baby for the largest pile of stuff you've ever going to see. And then he says you need to break them up into 4 visits instead of 1. So he's not saying don't take the vaccines. He's saying the vaccine schedule has caused autism. Now, that is a moderate theory, and it may very well be true. May very well be the case. Or it could be it could be the feature, not the bug. I keep saying that. The autism might have been the feature, not the bug. Might have been the goal all along. There are those on the right that believe that, and I respect those that do. And I kind of sympathize with them because I just don't trust anybody anymore, especially after COVID. But the President of the United States is taking a position here that is demonstrably different than the one Big Pharma would want him to take. I really believe that. And I don't think it's going to be used as a scapegoat because I think this is just the beginning. So the study was in, the facts were in. Look, I mean, a couple of weeks ago, this would have been three weeks ago, Trump posted something on Truth Social with a video, and the caption was, "They're all poison." That's what he posted on Truth Social, a video with the caption, "They're all poison," and it was an old video of NIH doctors talking about their thimerosal and mercury, which is mercury, and how it causes autism. He posted that on his own Truth Social, that the mercury in the vaccines will cause autism, and they said it like it was a matter of fact. Now, we've taken mercury out of vaccines. A lot of them. Aluminum, got to go, right? And, that's been going on for a while now. It's got to continue. But, at the same time, the guy standing behind Donald Trump right there is wanting those double-blind placebo studies done on these vaccines that he says the pharma industry gets away with not doing. So all of this stuff has got to be tested because, according to RFK, it really hasn't ever been tested in the proper way. And I would imagine those tests are ongoing. And I would imagine the people, the lifers within the CDC and other places that have been fired and are under protest, they found out about it and they're throwing fits about it. And guess what? They got fired for it. The science is settled. We all know it's cliche to say, but the science is never settled, folks. You know it, and I know it. We've already covered that one. Let me see here. William Wolf from the Center for Baptist Leadership writes, the same people telling you not to take medical advice from the president right now also told you that if you wore a cloth face diaper as you walked to your restaurant table and then took it off when you sat down, you would magically avoid catching a virus. That's pretty good. You know, we forget what we lived through. We forget the ability of people. The ability of people to be deceived. The tendency of people to be deceived. And I'll just say this, because we're talking about Big Pharma and COVID came up. I have thought this for a long time, and I can't remember the number, because I looked this up back when this was going on, how many Americans are on antidepressants. You know what? I got a Google machine right here, folks. Hang on one second. Let me type it out. Number of Americans on antidepressants. 30 million people. So 30 million out of 300 million. So I just had this epiphany, because, you know, there were these studies that that this came out last year, 2 years ago, something that antidepressants were not linked or associated with serotonin levels and that sort of thing. And I'm totally botching the study, but look it up, because it was a total rebuke of antidepressants. But what they do is they coat your receptors, or your dopamine receptors. That's oftentimes what happens, and it makes you more docile. Antidepressants make you just, yeah, man, cool, whatever, you know? Like, it makes you not care as much because you're depressed or you've got anxiety or whatever the case may be. And I just thought to myself, you know, if 30 million Americans during COVID weren't on antidepressants, how many of them would have had a little bit more ability to free think, would not be afraid, would understand what was going on, would say, I'm not going to comply with this? You just wonder how much of those antidepressants are just making people into livestock, or more obedient livestock, because I think they all look at us as cash cows, cash cows in the land that they own. In other news, YouTube has admitted to having censored people during the COVID pandemic and for political reasons. This is all coming out in congressional testimony now, and they're committing to bring accounts that were banned back online, the accounts that were banned for medical misinformation. You know, and I would wonder, like, I had to go through, the Millstone Report, I do not put the Millstone Report on my Paul Harrell YouTube channel. And the reason that I don't is because sometimes it was just too much trouble. Like, I put a few episodes of the Millstone Report on the YouTube channel, and that's where you can watch the Paul Harrell program every day with my co-host Rob Spencer at 4 p.m. Central. And you can watch it also here on X American News. But I quit putting the Millstone Report on it because I just found that I just kept getting these warnings or these strikes or whatever, and they would put me through some sort of re-education camp. And it was any time I talked about vaccines or something they didn't like about, and it was just so Orwellian what I had to do to remove the warning or whatever their system is. And so now they've been caught, and they're now basically saying, hey, we're going to try to restore some of these accounts. This was Disclose TV said this. YouTube admits to having censored people during the COVID pandemic for political reasons, offers terminated creators the opportunity to rejoin the platform. The company terminated channels for repeatedly violating its community guidelines on election integrity content through 2023 and COVID-19. That's the other thing, the stolen election. COVID-19 content through 2024. Today, YouTube's community guidelines allow for a wider range of content regarding COVID-19 and elections integrity. Reflecting the company's commitment to free expression, YouTube will provide an opportunity for all creators to rejoin the platform if the company terminated their channels for repeated violations of COVID-19 and election integrity policies that are no longer in effect. YouTube values conservative voices on its platform and recognizes that these creators have extensive reach and play an important role in our civic discourse. The company recognizes these creators are among those shaping today's online consumption, landing must-watch interviews, giving viewers the chance to hear directly from politicians, celebrities, business leaders, and more. Yeah, I mean, these people were literally just, they didn't want Do you remember when Joe Rogan interviewed Robert Malone, and Robert Malone talked about, what was the term? Hang on, I'm blanking here. Psychosis. Mass formation psychosis. Do you remember this? They censored the video. Everybody started researching mass formation psychosis, and we realized, oh my gosh, that's what's going on in COVID. This is trauma-based mind control. That's what's going. It's just being run on fear, where we're addicted to the fear. We tune in to get this dopamine hit about what's going to happen next with COVID. There's mass censorship over people that were just trying to say what they believed because of their own experiences and believing their own eyes. That's not scientific. And the truth of the matter is, the general public are critical thinkers, much more so. If COVID proved us anything, if COVID proved to us anything, it proved to us that doctors are not critical thinkers generally. That the average person is more of a critical thinker than a doctor, a trained physician. And do you know why that is? Because doctors are analytical. Doctors are analytical. Doctors think they're critical thinkers. Many of them, some of them are surgeons. A lot of surgeons are critical thinkers. The surgeon is the one that is, the surgeon is the most practical and isn't just basically like a glorified pharmacist. Because the surgeon's got to actually get in there and physically fix you. So I think the work with the hands, there's something that like goes back to the Garden of Eden with that. It's just more, I don't know. Not all surgeons. Obviously, you got surgeons doing trans surgeries and calling it healthcare. So my analogy will fall apart eventually. But that's just me thinking out loud. But yeah, doctors, many of them think they're very, very smart. Many of them are, but they think they're critical thinkers, but they're really analytical thinkers. And the kicker is that there are lines that they're not supposed to cross. So their analysis of whatever your symptoms are, whatever disease you have, or whatever they can do to help, their analysis is not allowed based on their training or based on the pharmaceutical rep and how pretty she was. Their training, I believe, is boxed in, goalposts, right? And you're not allowed to think outside that box. And that's where the critical thinkers come in. The critical thinker says, why is this line here that I'm not allowed to cross? Why can't I cross this line? Oh, no, Anthony Fauci. Anthony Fauci said so. Anthony Fauci says remdesivir has the study. They've got the study. It was used in Ebola. Yeah. When the one they discontinued remdesivir after 6 months because it was giving people kidney failure and they were dying. That's the study. The audacity of that guy. You talk about accountability. This man needs to be investigated, indicted, charged, and sentenced for his crimes against humanity. Anyway, YouTube is trying to make nice now. Trying to make nice. Folks, before we go, I have got to tell you about Red Vive Health, specifically this massive discount that is now going on now at Red Vive Health. And this is not a temporary thing, okay? Clinical strength red light panels, red light and near infrared light, integral to the body. We normally get this light as the sun rises, you get it. As it sets, you get it, right? In those times. That's why it can really improve your sleep. But this is targeted doses and high-powered near and infrared light. The red light increases the collagen of your skin, the collagen production, anti-aging, all kinds of stuff. You feel incredible. The near-infrared light stimulates the mitochondria of your cell, giving you more energy, giving you quicker recovery time. It's a biohack. It's called biophotomodulation, where you're basically, the way I describe it is you're tricking your body into thinking that you got to work out where those cells are because the blood flow increases when you didn't really. So it's really good if you've got chronic pain and it hurts to move. This will help. It's also got an immediate analgesic effect, so you do get immediate pain relief. But with consistent use, folks, this is technology that the medical industrial complex doesn't want you to have because it can get you out of that surgery pipeline. It can get you off of that big pharma hamster wheel. Okay, so right now, if you use my name Paul, you get 35% off. You got to go, if you're going to buy online, you got to go to redvivehealth.org/Paul. Okay, if you go to that link, redvivehealth.org/Paul, you'll get a coupon immediately that says you get 35% off. Click on it and then start your shopping. And if you're not ready to buy yet, go ahead and do the research because they've got great research papers because this is scientifically proven. If you don't want to mess with all of that and you're ready to buy, just call 844-RED-VIVE. That's 844-RED-VIVE. Mention my name, Paul, and save 35%. Really, I mean, that's a pretty big discount. Go save 35% right now at redvivehealth.org/Paul or call 844-RED-VIVE. Folks, in about 3 hours, me and my co-host, Rob Spencer, will be joining you here on X American News and across other platforms. Go and subscribe to the YouTube channel, the Paul Harrell Program. We would very much appreciate that as well. And we will be here with bells on talking about, I'm sure, more of this RFK stuff and everything else that's coming out because the news tends to change in 3 hours. Thank you so much for watching. God bless everybody out there watching, and we'll see you in 3 hours.
The very foundation of the Christian faith is based